Hey guys, it's Clint. I'm going to do sort of a rant style video, so bear with me. And this is on crowdfunding comics. Now, I think the word has gotten out over the past year that there's some kind of gold rush when it comes to Indiegogo or indie comics or Comicsgate or whatever angle you came at it from. People are seeing that there are a lot of campaigns making a lot of money in comics, and they're only seeing the tip of the iceberg. And so the point of this video is not to be mean. That's not my goal, but to be nice, to be a good person. I think I need to give you a little bit of understanding as to what it takes to get a campaign that's going to make enough money to actually make the book that you want to make, to get published, if that's your goal. Whatever your goal is with the crowdfunding, you have to understand some of these things. Now, I'm a lot more well versed in this than I was a year ago. I will tell you that. I had done a failed crowdfunding campaign. It was a Kickstarter campaign a few years ago. It was embarrassing. I worked hard at it and I thought that it was going to go well, and it didn't go well, and it was embarrassing. Just public embarrassment. It could have gone much better had I really had a good picture and a good idea of what was supposed to happen during the campaign. It's funny, when my campaign Downcast started doing well, it started doing well the first day. So thanks everybody that backed it the first day. But it was doing well, and people started to take notice of it because it was like day 2, day 3 that it was putting up some really impressive numbers. Generally speaking, for a crowdfunding campaign. Now, I know this is not the top tier level of crowdfunding, but $30,000. I'm very proud of it. I'm happy with it. It's been really great. But when people started taking notice of it, they would say things like, "Oh, you never know when you're gonna strike gold. Sometimes these things just happen. Isn't that funny? Oh wow, you really got lucky here. It just really, you just did well. That was pretty lucky." It's not exactly true. There was luck involved. I know that, I can already hear you right now in the comments section. Well, you got lucky because A, B, and C. Yeah, I did. I did get lucky in some aspects. But if you think that I just got lucky, and if you think that everybody that has a crowdfunding campaign that's successful just got lucky, you're wrong. Okay, because the same kind of luck that I got, other people have gotten, and I'm not just talking about any one thing. There's lots of different factors that roll into it. You can get lucky, and that can happen, but it doesn't mean that you're going to be successful. And I've seen it. I don't want to point any specific campaigns out because I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But there are a lot of campaigns that have had a lot of lucky breaks, and they still were not successful. Now, I'm not going to pretend that I know everything, but I got a pretty good idea, another perspective as to some of the basic things, some of the check boxes that were not checked, and that could be contributing to the fact why some campaigns fail and others don't. Problem is, everybody sees the successful campaigns and they think that all you have to do is put together a campaign, and there's just people are going to throw money at you. That's not how it works. If there was a gold rush, it doesn't exist anymore. It's done. Indiegogo is just flooded with campaigns. Not just campaigns, but a lot of really good campaigns. Now, this is just, I just did Explorer Comics. These are the ones that happen to be on the top right now. I didn't make it so. But you got Graveyard Shift, which is actually an ended campaign, did $174,000. That's what everybody wants. That's what everybody sees as what they want. Starblades has $90,000. 4 days left. It's going to definitely pass the 6-figure mark. That is awesome. Happy for Kyle Ritter. But he's done something. He's done a number of things that your average, just beginner comic has not done. I'm looking at some of the other campaigns. The numbers are not always so impressive. And they're at different levels in the campaign, and I'm not putting anybody down for sure. But what I am saying is, for your sake, if you're thinking of running a crowdfunding campaign and you're expecting it to work like this, that you're going to put together a book, you're going to hire an artist, or you're going to do the art, you're going to put a campaign together with a cute idea, you're going to post it up there, and then you're going to start talking to people and reaching out to different YouTube creators and being on their platforms. You're going to do all this and make the rounds and do all of that work during your campaign time. you're going to be disappointed. So I've got the minimum, what I think are the minimum. I've heard other people give minimums. Actually, John Malin's one of them. He put a list on Twitter a couple weeks ago of what he said were the minimums. I think that my campaign, Downcast, I think this is the minimum. Yeah, you could make less than this and still make a book. In my opinion, this is the minimum in order to do the book that I wanted to do and to have some profit to pay me for my time, which if I break it all down, it doesn't actually pay that well for my time. I'll find out. I'm gonna let you know exactly how much money I am personally making from this campaign. But yeah, I'm working out all the numbers and stuff, and it's not going to be nearly as much as you'd think. So this is minimum, okay? I made a little list here, and I already know there's some of you that are listening to this, and you're going to disagree with me. You're going to tell me I'm wrong, and maybe you're going to be upset, and that's okay. Well, you can tell me in the comments, please. It'll just help the algorithm. But here's the thing. Here are a few things that I think you need, okay? You need a story with mass appeal. If you're going to do a story that is really strange and so different and is really going to target such a small group of people that might be interested in it, you're going to restrict your success. I cannot tell you how many campaigns that I want to back because I like the art, I like, the people involved with it, and I look at the story and I think, who is this written for? Because I don't think I'm going to enjoy it. My kids can't enjoy it. It's maybe not written at their level. Like I've no idea who the story's written for. And so I'm not going to back it because I don't want it. I don't want to read it. You might hit some people that love it and they get your sense of humor or whatever, sense of whatever that you have. But you're going to make your life so much easier if you pick a story that's going to have a mass appeal. It's not that you're going to make a book that everybody's going to love. You're going to pick a book that a lot of people are going to love. Like you're going to hit a big cross section of people that are going to be interested. Okay, the next thing you're going to need is professional art. What I mean by professional art is, it's done by an artist that can work in a professional way, get stuff done, acting like a professional, hitting deadlines, that kind of stuff. That's important. That's professionalism. Second, you're going to want some art that looks professional at a glance, and maybe, even under some scrutiny, not maybe, but definitely under some scrutiny, it's going to look professional. This does not mean that your artist has to work for one of the major publishers. What it does mean is that the art, you could have to reasonably expect it to get published by a publisher, because you might not ever get your book published through a publisher, but that's not the point. You're the publisher. So you're going to want some art that's at a level that you're not going to be ashamed of, and that other people aren't going to be embarrassed to back. I think, I'm going to say this in the nicest way possible, I think that Downcast is the minimum. We were talking about this on the stream last night. Declan Shalvey, he's an artist, and he gets a lot of work. And I like his art. I'm not sure that it's necessarily the best art itself, but he's a very good storyteller. This art is at a professional level. It's been published by Marvel Comics. A lot of people read the books. It's understandable, readable. I get it. I like it. It's something that I enjoy reading and that I could see published through a professional comic and enjoy it. If the art does not look to that level, you got to figure out what you're going to do, because I'm not saying you can't make comics. You can make comics. Maybe you want to make web comics, whatever you want to do, keep making comics. That's cool. But if you want to get a whole bunch of people to give you money to make that comic, you have to set some kind of bar, some kind of minimum standard, and, go above and beyond that if you'd like to. That's great. But you got to have professional art. You cannot expect, you could do everything else right and not this, and you're still going to be underwhelmed. You might even get funded if you do everything else, but you're going to be underwhelmed with the results. Okay, next, you got to have professional writing. Nobody's going to know this ahead of time. They're going to see it afterward. I did my best to try and show people. We had lettered pages, at least for most of the campaign. Finished lettered pages so people could read it and hopefully get into the story. I pitched the campaign with the story idea, but ultimately, once people get the book into their hands, they're going to read it and review it and rip it apart and decide if they're going to invest money in you in the future as a writer, or if you're hiring a writer. This still means that the writing has to be at a level that you would consider publishable. You think of yourself as the publisher. If you would not pay somebody money to write that for you, but you're going to expect your backers to pay for it, something's wrong. Okay, so this does need to be addressed. That's why you should have an editor. You should plan for that in your budget, because if you're expecting people to pay for the comic, especially at the prices that it needs to be for crowdfunding to work, you're going to have to give them a good product. Okay, next is emails. Actually, more things on the list. I'm going to add some more here. Emails, 400 emails. I'm being really transparent for you. I started working on building my mailing list. Let's see, it was back in November time. It was November, and then I launched my campaign the following April. So from November to April, I was advertising every single day my mailing list and trying to drive people to it. That's how long it took me to get 400 email addresses. The nice thing is that now I still have that mailing list, and the number is actually higher because it's been around and I've done the campaign. And so I have more people on the mailing list. That's fantastic. 400 emails, from my experience, I'm not going to say this is going to translate. I think this is minimum, because I really wish that I had actually 3,000 email addresses. I think that's really where the number ought to be. I did it with 400 emails. Maybe you could do that. If you have a mailing list with 20 emails on it, or if you have a mailing list that is mostly comprised of your family and friends, personal people that you know, I think that's a red flag. I think you should strongly reconsider building your mailing list and finding regular people that don't know or owe you anything, that are willing to give you their email address so that they can hear about your comic when it first comes out. Is that hard? Yes, it is hard, but it's better to learn that when you're doing your mailing list than it is when you've launched a campaign and you're failing really publicly, and it's extremely stressful. Crowdfunding's hard. It is, and I've said this several times, it's the most stressful activity I think that I've ever participated in. It is extremely stressful for at least a month or however long you're crowdfunding. It's really stressful the week before you launch. It's extremely stressful during the middle. Like, the whole thing is just, you don't get a lot of sleep. It's bad. So the more emails you have ahead of time, you're spreading out that work and that effort so that you can get the thing done first. All right, the next one here is reliable daily advertising. The way I do this is with the YouTube channel, and it seems to work for me. It is an incredible amount of work. It is insane how much work it is. And I don't think most people believe how much work having a YouTube channel is. They think you just turn on the camera and you just go. It's a lot of work if you want to try and figure out the algorithm and post videos on a regular basis. And there's all sorts of information out there on how to make a YouTube channel. That's one way that works. It might not work for you. In fact, the more YouTube channels there are, the more competition there is in the same niche. If you're finding your own niche and you can somehow convert those people from a related niche into comic readers or joining your mailing list, that's great. If every single person I know that wants to have their own comic has their own YouTube channel, there's going to be an awful lot of competition. And that's not a bad thing, but just know that it is a thing. So if you have another idea for daily advertising, my goal was to try and get my channel up so I was advertising to at least 1,000 people every day, and I could just do a quick short promo and then give them something of value through the content of a informational video. Then I could build my mailing list that way. It worked for me, and again, this is the bare minimum, and this was me working on a YouTube channel and building this advertising platform for more than 6 months. So it was October when I started making videos and working on it, and then I started gathering mailing addresses in November, and then I launched it April. So that's a lot of time. That's a lot of work ahead of time before knowing if there's any payoff. If you wanted to use Instagram and really focus your time and energy and read articles on how to grow an Instagram account, how to work with the algorithm, those are the kind of activities you need to do. You need to be able to be willing to figure that out. Another option for this daily advertising, reliable daily advertising, could be actually paid advertising. If you have money to sink into daily advertising to build your mailing list, or to build just reliable advertising that you can run through the duration of your campaign, that's fine. You could do that. I would not, because that's going to cost an awful lot of money and make it even more difficult to get the money that you need to make your comic book. So I'm not sure. I've not really experimented with that with comics. I did it with my card game that I failed with. And I'll tell you, Facebook advertising was an enigma to me. I couldn't get it to really work or convert, and it ended up just being a waste of money. Okay, something I didn't put on this list because I was just thinking is your price point. Price. Okay, the price is the next one. The price of your comic. Okay, if we look here at a comic book done by a professional, we'll do John Malin because he's at the top here. Why not? Graveyard Shift Volume 2. This campaign is finished. And if I look at the entire thing, then I'm going to see to get the book, it's $25. It cost me $25 to get a 50-page graphic novel. This has a spine, I believe. And I know that the quality of the paper is going to be high quality because Graveyard Shift Volume 1 had really high quality paper to it. That's what you're getting for $25. Done by a professional that has worked in comics, Marvel Comics, a professional. This is what you're getting. Cannot remember what his shipping was. I want to say it's $10 for shipping, something like that. If you're domestic, if you're obviously from another country, it's going to cost more, but you get the idea. That's how much you're paying. So it's like $35 minimum to get the book shipped to you, done by a professional at this quality. If you're going to do a book with fewer pages, or if you're going to do a book that has suboptimal art or no name recognition behind it or anything like that, it's going to be much more difficult to ask somebody to pay $25 a book if you're giving them, you're trying to compare it here, get the pricing right, but you're not giving them as much value, essentially. It's going to be a really hard ask. How much more difficult is it going to be if you're asking somebody, a customer, to pay more for less? What if they're going to be paying $30 or $35 or $40 for a book that has 50 pages or less than 50 pages plus shipping, and it's not done by a professional, and you have no relationship with the customers ahead of time? You get the idea. Again, I'm not saying this to be rude or anything. This is, I think, the nicest thing. Like, you have to know this is the reality. You have to know this is a landmark for the top end of what you can ask for the value that you're giving. So you've got to kind of go along that scale. The way that I thought about mine is that Downcast was done by me, and I've been doing a lot of writing, but I'm not, I hadn't worked for Marvel or DC, so there's not as much name recognition. My art, I think, looks fantastic. There's a lot of great art in here, done by Ignacio Lazaro, but he hasn't worked for Marvel or DC. So I've got to be willing, I've got to make it worth it to you to give me a shot. So I made this book $15. That's just what I decided to do. Do I think it was wrong? No, I would do this exactly the same. Shipping was $6 for domestic, and obviously it costs more if you're living in another country, and that's just the reality of life. Okay, so if your book is somewhere between there, and my book is a 52-page book, I did more pages, has a spine, like as far as you can tell, the quality of the paper book itself is essentially the same as Graveyard Shift, and the page count is pretty darn close to it. But the difference is that this is done by John Malin and this is done by Clint Stoker. That's the difference. So if you're not a professional that has worked in comics that can convince 2,300 people plus to back your book, maybe you should consider giving more value or lowering the price. All right, so that's price. I got to add another one here though before we get to the end, and that is goal. I have to keep adding stuff. Goal. What is your goal that you're going for? This gets tricky too, because I found out, I set my goal at 7,000, I think my goal was. In reality, if I hit $7,000, I would have been paying money out of my pocket to get the book printed. I would have made it work for sure. Like, I was committed to making it work, but I'm really, really grateful that I got more than $7,000, because it absolutely would have been a burden. It's expensive to get a book and get it shipped to people. John Malin's goal was $1,000. You have to understand, you have your goal on paper and then you have your real goal behind the scenes. John Malin could not have done this for $1,000. That is essentially a power move. I mean, he knows he's going to crush $1,000 on day one and go well beyond that and get plenty of money. But I guarantee you that John Malin, and we've never talked about this, but I guarantee he's got a goal behind the scenes. He knows what he was shooting for, what he wanted to earn to be able to pay his rent, get the book out, all that kind of stuff. He knew what that amount needed to be. And I hope he passed whatever his goal was. He seemed pretty happy about it though. So I think that he was happy. So yeah, reaching your goal. My real goal, I think, was about 12,000. And I think that's about right. That's kind of what I needed to really make the book and get it shipped out to people and, have a little bit of a cushion. That cushion was smaller than I thought it would have actually been. So again, I'm glad we got 30 grand. That's amazing. Okay, now fine. Finally, last but not least, some streaming. I mentioned on the live stream the other night, Monday night, I mentioned that I'm going to be doing less live streaming and less promoting. I've floated this idea before on Twitter. I just get a lot of requests all of the time, constantly, and it has been increasing constantly with people that want me to promote their books on streams. Now, if I were to venture a guess, I would say that people that have been on my streams don't really see very, very big bumps in their funding numbers from being on my streams. Some people don't get a single backer whatsoever from being on one of my streams. My streams don't sell well. They don't even sell well for me. But what does sell well is my regular videos that I can get up to 1,000 people, or at minimum 1,000 people watching every day, and do a really quick, short 30 seconds maximum promotion for my book or my mailing list. That works for me. If you're going to be on my stream and you're going to talk to 30 people, maybe 50 if you're lucky, you're not going to get a lot of sales from that. That's just reality. Now, so during this streaming, I think of this as the spice. This is just on top. These are the sprinkles on top. You've already done this successful, created this campaign before you ever launch. You've figured all of this out. Oh, and I will add, gosh, I got to add one more too. You got to make the campaign look appealing. Like, see, even just down to these thumbnails of what you're backing. I'm not saying that mine's the best, but it's pretty close to the best, let's be honest. John Malin's looks great as well, but there's just some design here. It doesn't look like it was just slapped together. There was some forethought. There's some great pictures to draw people in. That's the goal. So the streaming that you do is just like you've already launched, you're live. Now you're going to talk to media. You're going to be talking to people and promote your book and present all this hard work that you've already done ahead of time. You're going to present it to them, and your chances of being successful on a stream is so much higher because you're probably going to come to that stream with success already. You're going to have some level of success because you already have 400 emails from people who are actually interested in your product, your book, and you're going to have some way to do reliable daily advertising. Now that you have those two things, you're going to go on a stream, you're going to look good, you're going to look like a professional, and people are going to want to back you because you got your stuff together. Okay, so last thing here too, just to sort of wrap this all together. What you're doing here is you're asking people to give you $15 a book or $25 a book, and probably no more than that per book, let's be honest. And that is actually a big ask, especially to people on the internet that are not your friends and family. They're just there because they might be interested in your book. So what you need to be thinking of through this whole process is the concept of giving and taking. I've talked about this a lot. I cannot emphasize how important this is to make it work. You need to be giving at least 10 times more than you're taking, more than you're asking. You cannot be asking 10 times and then be giving one time. That does not work well. If you're asking, for example, for streamers to help you out, man, I've got a great example. Like, it can be anything from just kind words. That actually goes a long way with me. If you're nice to me, it makes me feel good. I've got good feelings. There are other people that have streaming platforms or websites. Those should not be overlooked as well. There's review sites. There are all sorts of ways for you to get out there. So people with big social media presence that you want to retweet your stuff. Being nice to people goes a long way. That is a form of giving. On the higher end of the spectrum, I've had people send me money, and I'm not saying that everyone has to do that, but I'll admit when somebody sends me a super chat or they whatever, they're buying something from me, it makes me feel good. And then I'm more likely to help you out as well. I've also had, like, one person sent me prints. They're just gorgeous prints. Again, that's not something you have to do all the time. But again, I'm so much more happy to do something for this person because they've been just thoughtful. You get the idea. You understand how this works. Now, it might seem more straightforward if you're talking about a streamer or somebody with a platform that you want access to. The truth is, you need to be thinking about this way for every single one of your backers. You have to be giving them something. If you're asking for their email address, you better make sure you have something to give them in return for giving you their email. That's a big ask. You have to treat it like that. It's a big ask. It's important. And so if they're willing to trust you with their email address, you better give them something. I give people a free copy of my novel, an ebook version. Obviously, I can't make it cost me a ton of money. But yeah, my book, All for Owen, you could buy this on Amazon for like $7 or whatever it is. Or you join my mailing list and you get the digital version for free. That also, highlights the professional writing, and hopefully they enjoy the writing and they're interested in backing the campaign and, giving me their email address. During your reliable daily advertising, you could be paying Facebook ads for your reliable daily advertising. That could work. You're giving Facebook money so that they'll advertise your stuff. If you're going to make content, if you're going to make your own YouTube channel or, Instagram or whatever you're going to be doing, just give people content. That could be art. If you're an artist and you're posting art daily so they can see your art, and then you're just mentioning like, yeah, I've got a book coming up. That's an extremely effective way to let people know that it's coming down the pipe and to give them something. You don't have to give them a lot, but just give it them often. All right, so I hope all that made sense. The reason I do this, again, is just because I see there's a lot of people that think that crowdfunding is just a gold rush and that you're just going to throw your campaign up and get a lot of money. And it ends up being really frustrating. Maybe it's embarrassing. Maybe, there's a litany of things, or you get really upset about it or mad at people or whatever. I cannot guarantee success for what you do, but what I think is that's the minimum. You should be doing your project for sure. Somebody has to be in charge of marketing and promoting your campaign. It's probably got to be you. So make sure you have those things put together ahead of time. And I promise you're actually going to end up drawing more attention to yourself and your campaign once you have launched. It's hard work. I get it. But it's so much better to do it ahead of time than it is after you've launched the campaign. So thanks very much if you made it through that entire video. I think it's all really important stuff and it needs to be said. And I just tell you because, I want you to succeed. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Go ahead. This is where you can tell me where I'm dead wrong and you disagree, or, other things that I may have missed that are pretty important. Don't forget to like, subscribe, make sure you're still subscribed. And I'll say it now, like Downcast, we're 78% finished with the interior art and moving very, very quickly at being completely finished with this. So if you haven't backed it yet, this campaign will be closing from the in-demand store pretty soon. So it's in the link in the description below. You can check it out and make sure you back it. Thanks very much. I'll see you next time.